This is the Tallahassee Business Podcast, brought to you by the Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Event Owl, who's helping clients across the nation elevate virtual, hybrid, and live events. Learn more at eventowl.com. Thanks for joining us and enjoy this episode of the Tallahassee Business Podcast.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Sue Dick, president of the Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce, and very excited today to have a Chamber of Commerce board member with us, Aaron Milner. Thank you for being here, Aaron.
Thank you guys for the invitation.
Well, we're glad you're here. We've got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, we want individuals to maybe learn a little bit more about you and your company and what you have been doing in the community since you started your company in 2013. So maybe give a little background on how you found yourself in Tallahassee and your company, your partner, and what your overall culture and goals are for the business.
Okay, I am originally from Savannah, Georgia, and I came to Tallahassee in the early 2000s for college. And upon completion of college, I started at a local engineering firm where I met my partner. I came out of school at the most opportune time, which was in 2007, so right before the Great Recession hit, and I found myself kind of in a kind of weird position. So at that point, I was at that company, hit the ceiling, and kind of had to figure out what to do. So from there, I got with my partner, and we started a new company, Johnson Milner, a few years coming out of recession in 2013. And since then, we kind of just hit the ground running, and have been doing engineering in the community ever since.
Well, if you, that takes a lot of courage, and I think a lot of individuals that came out of 2008 have a lot of stories to tell for it, but congratulations to you and for growing your business. And I think as a Chamber of Commerce, we want to make sure we continue to highlight our small businesses that are here in our community making such a difference. So thank you, and as I said, you're on the Chamber Board of Directors, and as a board member, we always continue to want your feedback and your engagement, and thank you for being so involved. I think Jay Smith was the one that first introduced us as our current chairman, and I know you're working on some projects with him, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but we were talking earlier, coming off the heels of the Chamber Community Conference. It seems like a year ago, but it was only about a week and a half ago. This was your first time attending, so thank you for doing that. You're very involved as a board member. We had a board of directors meeting on Thursday, but maybe what your takeaway from the conference had been, this was your first time, and we were obviously very careful with COVID, but we really appreciated the support and the message from our local businesses of they wanted to attend and they wanted to do the business that we know we need to do and takeaways from our session. So what was your first time experience, and what would you say to those that maybe have never been before?
So the first thing I would say to those that have never attended is definitely get it on your calendar for next year and make sure you attend. I can't remember the dates right now, but I think it's going to be, if I'm correct, Sue, in August of next year, so August of 22. If you haven't been, get it on your calendar. In terms of my personal takeaway, I learned a lot at the conference. One of the key takeaways, I think, is I've been hearing a lot about the Mag Lab here lately and how the Mag Lab is such a pivotal part of our community. Well, at the Chamber, I was finally able to meet Dr. Bobinger, who is the director of the Mag Lab, and they are actually really doing some fascinating things. So to now be able to go to the Chamber and kind of connect the dots of what the Mag Lab offers to the community, that in and of itself probably was the key takeaway to finally really understand what's being done out on Innovation Park. The other things, there was a number of just dynamic speakers. Quint Studer was one, that he's a community consultant, I think. It was more like his title. He talked about some of the challenges that they've overcome in Pensacola in terms of community development and how that's tied into small businesses and just making sure that we're engaged with the community and really having a voice about moving a community forward that was a little stagnant. So there were definitely some key takeaways that I think also will be applicable to here in our community. And then we had an economic forecast from and Sue may have to help me. I think it was Marcy.
You got it. It's Marcy Rossell.
Marcy Rossell. So
yeah.
She kind of gave an economic forecast. Of course, there's been a number of changes and the supply chains and what we're looking at in terms of moving forward in terms of the interest rates with the Fed and just how the COVID has kind of impacted the future economy, what that means to us here locally from a national level, globally. And she did a really, really good job about tying all that in. So I really enjoyed my first time at the conference because I really, again, got to take in a lot of information that wasn't just applicable to me personally, but like I said, the community, the nation, the state. And it was just a really good tie-in about where we're going, where the opportunities are. And so I really, really enjoyed the conference. And again, I encourage anybody else who has not yet been able to attend to definitely get it on the calendar for next year.
Well, as I was saying, we didn't get a chance actually to spend a lot of time together. I think people were busy networking and making new acquaintances. And I think that's obviously what we try and do as a community conference is make some connections for individuals in a relaxed setting, but pretty intense with a lot of the sessions. So we look forward to having everyone join us next year. Keep an eye out. The dates will be out there soon, at least to mark your calendar to attend. Well, Aaron, I don't know how you can do all the things that you're doing. I appreciate you coming in and recording this podcast with us, but you're busy running your business as well. I know we were talking about some projects, and I know the Office of Economic Vitality has a lot that they're working on, but you're engaged and you're doing a lot for the community, and you see some projects coming out of the ground. What opportunities do you see out there, and what are some of the projects that you as an engineering firm are going to be working on that are so important for our community?
I think one of the biggest that we're working on, and we're just moving forward, if anybody has had a chance to drive over by Northwood Center, which is now going to be the site for the new police station. So we're involved in that one. We'll also soon be working on a fire station locally that's coming in town that I believe will be on Lake Bradford. That one, we kind of have not started on that one yet, but it's probably going to be in the works for the next fiscal year, I believe, possibly. But if I'm wrong, don't quote me on that one. We're looking at a number of projects that are going to be kind of under the blueprint gateway. So they'll have a Northeast Gateway. There'll be one for the airport. I think Orange Avenue. There's several of them that we're kind of looking at. So again, we're certified with OEV as a minority firm, and we really just appreciate the relationship with those guys in terms of just helping us get a little bit more exposure and opportunities with a lot of those projects that you see. We're hoping to see a lot more private projects and private developments here soon, similar to Amazon. We're not involved with that one, but we're hoping that we can get a few more big manufacturing type projects that are coming in town like that, so that it'll create more opportunities, not just for us, but for the community as a whole.
Yeah, so that must be exciting when you drive around town and you realize that your engineering or the reason that projects can actually come out of the ground. I mean, that just must be kind of a surreal moment where you're working on it in your office, but you actually get to go out and see the sites themselves.
Yes. Once we get past the pleasures of getting it out of the ground, then yes, driving by it is an actual very fulfilling kind of
accomplishment.
Sure.
So what I'm just curious also, what's have you found in your professional career, you started in 2008, as you kind of go through each year, are there talents or have you found that since you've started your company in 2008, as if you continued to grow both professionally and personally, what has maybe surprised you the most about your development as far as being a business owner and just kind of maneuvering through the economy and opportunities?
I would say the most surprising thing is that you end up spending a lot of time not necessarily on the things that you enjoy doing the most. So a lot of my time these days is not necessarily spent on doing the engineering part. It's doing some of the community outreach and engagement, doing some of the administrative things behind the scenes, marketing, and there's so many things and challenges about being in business that I guess until you really get in business that you may not really have an appreciation for. So I would say for me personally, since we started, I entered the workforce in 2008. We started in 2013. But it's been a huge learning curve, and it never really stopped. So again, even I'm learning a whole lot being on the chamber board in terms of, working behind the scenes and how some of those larger policies impact even some of the things we're doing on the engineering side. So
Yeah.
I would say that is probably the largest takeaway that I would say as a small business entrepreneur, that, it's all the things that you really don't know when you assume that I'm solid on the engineering, I'm good on this part, but every day there's a new challenge, whether it's, you have to become like even an HR specialist. So even with having a small amount of employees, you still have to deal with, benefits coordination and creating incentives to kind of retain your employees. So there's just a number of things that you just aren't expecting when you first start, and as you grow, that you really, become somewhat of an expert at that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we hear that often, and I think until you're in there, people just don't understand. Yes, you have a specialty of your career path, but it takes a lot of guts to open up the doors every day and say, we're going to grow this business, and you are the go-to person, right? Everything kind of stops with you. So, that's why as a chamber, we recognize the small businesses and how hard it is every day for them to get up and going for our community. So thank you for all that you are doing. I think the most important piece also is to say, maybe what's the call to action? What would be the one piece that you would want the rest of the community to step in line with you on, because you're living that every day?
I would say my call to action would probably be to my fellow business owners and fellow members of the chamber. The chamber just launched in terms of jobs now, and there are a number of things that I just feel like we as a small business community really have to be more visible, and we really should get behind. There were some things that prior to joining the board that I wasn't aware of that were taking place in terms of the community and certain initiatives, and I just really feel like my call to action would be to my fellow entrepreneurs and business owners to really be vocal, really to be present, really make sure you're showing up at the public interest meetings and kind of putting out the concerns of small businesses that can really help promote a lot of what we're doing and really help to promote more positive change in the community.
Well, Aaron, well said. That's a great stopping point for us. I think that's a very strong call to action for our community, so we can have a great community. So I want to thank you. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us, and continued success to you.
Thank you for the invitation.